Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host, and this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Here, as we slide into the month of October, the spooky month, we're going to have several looks at various spooky stuff. The Dark Librarian is going to make a few appearances. Now, don't plan on doing all horror through the month of October, but I plan on doing several of them. I've held off on horror stuff for the last couple of months, just in anticipation of the spooky month of October. Okay, and this time I want to take a look at this issue of The Many Ghosts of Dr. Graves. This is number 38 from 1973. And as you can see here, this has a Steve Ditko cover on it. During the 70s, when he was doing the horror stuff at Charlton, a lot of his draftsmanship was not really up to par. Now, this is one of his better illustrated covers, even though it's not particularly interesting. You can see a little bit. It is have a little bit. You see this shadowy figure here. The guy crying out for who's there, and the spectral images of two people in the foreground. But it's not particularly interesting, but it is better drawn than a lot of his later covers. Okay, let us delve into the spooky stuff of the ghosts of Dr. Graves, because Dr. Graves is the host. And here he appears up here on the top, and it looks like they're using it's a Ditko version of the head of Dr. Graves. And this is Dr. Heegee's Secret Garden. This is written by Gill and drawn by Jose Delbo. This features an older man who's a Japanese botanist, and he has developed a strain of several mutant carnivorous plants, and this guy comes to him and wants to don't know what for, but wants to produce the plants for sale. And the doctor says, no, they're too dangerous. And we see why. He pulls a gun on the old man, and the nearby plant grabs him and subdues him. Says, okay. But he says, but he has other goons who are in the house and have taken his wife and his family captive. And these are some Japanese goons working with him, probably Yakuza or something. And they give him the option. So he said, give me a little time to think about it, and I will. Meanwhile, while they're all holding guns on him, and they're saying, yeah, once we get him to sign the paperwork and we get all the plants, we'll do away with him. Well, the plants aren't so eager about that, and they start snatching people. And it looks here like this story might have been a little bit of an inspiration from, gotten some inspiration from the original horrible movie, Little Shop of Horrors. And the guys run out into the yard because the plants are taking out the other goons. And then the plants out in the yard, they take care of things. And by the next day, they're completely gone. Then we got, this is a better story, and it's a little longer. And I like this one, Suspended Sentence. This goes back to Salem at the time of the witch trials. This lady is being accused of being a witch, and including one of the people accusing her is her lover. And he claims he says he still loves her, but she is still going to be executed as a witch. Meanwhile, she's there talking, she just up and dies. But her cat Familiar, pops out the window and sees the guy who was her lover. She snuggles up against him a little bit and takes off. It says, "Which she may be, but I'll always love her." Then the cat goes up a tree, is treed by a dog. They said, "That's the witch's cat." And they sit there waiting for the cat to come down, but the cat never comes down. And they don't ever see the cat. Here we go forward 300 years and the witch's house is on display. A cop is there and sees the cat come down a tree and go into the witch's house. And there is a lady who looks just like that witch. He says, "Did you see a cat?" "No, didn't." And they get to talking, and they agree to go out on a date that night. But they go outside, and there's a car, and he didn't see that car before. She gets in the car and takes off. Then they meet for supper and get together, and there is the cat. And it turns out, of course, they are both the reincarnations of the witch and her lover. And that's unusual that they get together in the end, instead of being something really horrifying. And I liked that one, the letters page. Then we get to the Ditko story, which is, who's there? It's just this guy. His parents died a few months ago. He's living in the same house. He inherited the house from them. And he keeps hearing noises and imagine he sees things move around, and he's scared, terrified. And at night, he hears all this stuff, and he sees this creepy thing. He covers his head under the covers, but then it's gone. He doesn't know what to make of it. He keeps seeing stuff, spooky stuff, and hearing spooky stuff. And then while he's running from the spooky stuff, he smells smoke. The house is on fire. The neighbors call the fire department, and they save him. And then we see two ghostly figures outside, which are his late parents. It says, "It's terrible, Eugene, to burn down the house we loved so much. We had to do it, Emma, for our son's sake. He always had a vivid imagination, and every nightmarish creature he ever imagined was real to him. As long as that house existed, they would haunt him." And again, so it wasn't quite so terrifying. It wasn't the story, and it actually reminded me of something that Ditko himself might have written, but it wasn't. It was also written by Gill. And then our host is there at the end, who is telling the story, Dr. Graves, and that is the end of our first spooky episode for the spooky month of October. So I want to thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Yeah, I really like the voices, like the Charlton horror comics. They weren't necessarily as horrifying, but they were often very well done, considering the low pay and low production quality. So thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Which of these stories did you like best? And we will see more spooky stuff in the future. And remember, spooky comics are art.